Our question today comes from Joe. He says, what draft sticks out is a draft that set the team back? I got to pick. I want to see where you go with yours first.
I think it's obvious. I think it's the 2022 draft. Now, I shouldn't say it's obvious because there's a lot of candidates. First of all, is that yours or is it not?
No, it's not.
All right. Well, 2022 is the year that they made that weird trade with the Eagles to get 2 first-round picks. And I think their motivation was they didn't have any cap space at the time, and they thought they could get 2 first-rounders in the building. I think they probably knew at the time that they were going to want to load up on draft ammo because they were probably going to want to go get Chris Olave in that draft that had a ton of top receivers. And obviously there's nothing wrong with getting Chris Olave. He's been one of their best picks. But to take Olave and Penning in round 1 that year, it cost them a total of their first-round pick that year, which was supposed to be 18, first-round pick the next year, which would have been 10, a second-rounder in 2024, 2 third-rounders in 2022, and a fourth-rounder in 2022. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 6 valuable picks, 5 picks in the first 3 rounds, 6 picks in the first 4 rounds that amounted to Olave and Penning. And Penning hasn't even really been an asset. So that's just, I mean, that's what they needed to build this current roster with. I want those 6 picks. I don't want just Olave and Penning. I want all 6 of those picks back.
I honestly would have went 18, 19, or 20.
Sure,
Any one of those 3, or where I would have probably went with it. 18, obviously, you make the trade for Marcus Davenport.
That's 2 first-rounders on one guy that didn't hit.
Yeah, your third-round pick, Traquan Smith, doesn't really hit the way you want him to. Fine player, but not a difference maker. Rick Leonard, total bust. Nichelle Jamerson, Cameron Moore, Boston Scott, not on the team. Shout out Will Clapp, still living. 2019, no first-round pick. Solid draft, but I mean, you don't get a first-round pick there. McCoy and Gardner-Johnson, really good players. So let's take 19 off the list, and that's just kind of a residual to 18 not having a first-round pick. And then 20 could have been a great draft if you played the players, but you didn't. But just getting Ruiz, Zach Bond, Troutman, and Tommy Stevens is brutal to me. But I go back to 18. I feel like that massive miss is just huge. And then, you know, guys picked after him, Derwin James, Jair Alexander, the list goes on, man. Calvin Ridley, you know,
and you can list all the 2019 first rounders. Keep going.
The quarterback, Lamar. Yeah,
Lamar
I mean, like,
and all the 2019 first rounders that they didn't have a shot at because they didn't have a first round pick. There's nothing that's a bigger killer. And look, I would be disingenuous. Like, I was okay with them trading up and picking their spots, and it's something they believe in. But like, you look and you're like, wait, 2020, why didn't they have a second round pick? Well, because they used 2 second round picks to trade up and get Eric McCoy, and that was obviously a good pick. But then they don't have a second rounder the next year. Like, they've packaged picks and traded up so often. 2 first round picks became Marcus Davenport. 2 second round picks became Eric McCoy. 2 third round picks became Zach Bond. Those 6 picks I just mentioned became Olave and Penning. They just depleted their resources so much it makes it so that you can't miss. But one other just missing on the actual picks they made. Man, oh man, is 2023 making a run at this title. Like, Brzee was a good pick in the first round, but Bosky second round, Kendry Miller third round, Jake Saldivari and Jake Haener fourth round. Yikes.
Well, going back to your point though, just about the trading up too. I mean, 20. It's brutal. Like, you make 4 picks and you trade back in to get Tommy Stevens. It was going to be 3. And then when you're sitting here and it's like, well, they don't have any depth and they can't overcome their injuries. Well, it's because they aren't drafting people. And yeah, sure, it's fine to be like, well, who cares? Day 3 picks, whatever. But you don't get a depth player like Landon Young. You don't get a depth player like Caden Ellis. You don't get a depth player like Will Clapp. You don't get, you know, Alquadin Muhammad still in the league. Like, these are the players that end up filling out your roster.
Jordan Howden.
Yeah, you still got the Jacksons around. Yeah, Howden's a good pick one. A.T. Perry gave you a shot at a starter. Ultimately didn't work out, but at least you get a shot there. Like, if you aren't making these picks, and, you know, the counterpoint that a team would make is, well, you get your UDFAs or whatever. But I still think you can do both. Like, you make your picks and you sign your UDFAs, and then you have people competing in camp for more and more depth. That's the downside to not making these picks. And the residual effects of where the team's at, I think you just look through this draft history and you can map out a roadmap that leads you right to here where we're at today.